So I'd like to welcome Dr. Amanda Barnes, who is an Employability Manager and a cell biologist at the University of York. Hi Amanda.
Hi Sue, thank you very much for speaking to me today.
Hi, it's great to talk to you. We're going to start off, we're talking about the Finding Ada online careers fair. And in that, candidates can use video chat to talk to potential employers. Now, you work in the careers team at the University of York. How would you suggest that candidates prepare for these video conversations?
So the first thing I'd say is, although it's not a formal interview, this is your first opportunity to really show yourself to that company and it's a way in. So treat it relatively formally and professional if you can. So for example, the type of language that you use in the discussions you might have with the recruiter. And I would do a little bit of research about the company first. Although the point of that video conversation is for you both to find out a bit more about each other, I think preparation is going to give a really good first impression. So for example, find out about the different types of graduate roles that are available to you. And if there's not graduate schemes, what are the entry level jobs that you could apply to? You might want to ask about what graduates have already done that have applied to the company, what their career paths have been like. You might want to perhaps start something a little bit more generic, so find out a bit more about the company. So key projects they work on. If they're a research company, what are their key research areas? Or if they're a larger client-based company, what are their key services that they provide? And another really good thing about this conversation is it gives you an opportunity to find out how your values fit with those of the company. So for example, what do you want your typical day to be like in your world of work? And you can ask questions to find out a bit more about that. And for example, what's the culture like at the company? Am I going to fit in well there?
Now, it is a video interview, so how important is how you dress and the background? How important is that?
Personally, I think it's quite important. You're showing yourself in a professional manner. So I have got quite a bright pink wall behind me, but it's quite clear. There's nothing distracting behind me. It's just a clear surface, and I've dressed quite formally as well to provide a good impression. And I'd suggest you do that as well. And beyond actually how it looks, make sure you're not going to get any distractions. If you're in your student house, nobody knows to come into your bedroom and interrupt you, and you've got your laptop plugged in and charging, and it's not going to die on you during the call. So just little things to make it run simpler and allow you to focus on the conversation.
So you mentioned a moment ago the importance of having a good question to open the discussion with. I think it's also important to end on a high note. How can you prepare to close the conversation?
I would recap some of the things that you've been talking about in that conversation. It shows that you've been paying attention and you really appreciate that individual's time. So, for example, I might say to you, thanks very much, Sue, for your time. It was really nice to share my insights about recruitment and video interviews with you. And also, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. So thank the individual for the time that they've given up to you. Something along those lines. And also, you might want to find out how to further keep a link with that individual if you were going to then apply or you wanted to seek support in the next stages from the initial inquiry.
Awesome. In terms of, a strong beginning and a strong end is always important. A little bit in the middle, these video conversations aren't timed. They go on for as long as is necessary. How do you keep the energy going? How do you keep that middle from turning into a bit of a flat space?
So I think you should be prepared to lead that entire conversation. Perhaps think about somebody that when you speak to, you're aware that they're not a great conversationalist and you need to keep them going. So I would have a list of questions. So you might see me glance down now to have a look at some of the ones I've written as examples. And that's the beauty of a video interview, is I can quite quickly just have a quick skim over the notes that I've put down. Keep that energy going and not be sat there for a period of time thinking, what should I ask next? And so, for example, you might want to start with something quite generic about the company. So having done your research, you could ask them a question about something you've seen online. So, for example, their key portfolio or a key research target in their company. And then maybe move further into the opportunities for graduates. So what does a graduate scheme look like in that company? What does that graduate career progression look like? What's the culture of that company? What's a typical day like for someone working with that individual? And what training opportunities are available for you?
And I think it is important to remember this isn't a television interview. You know, this is not going to go out on the BBC. You can look down at notes. You know, you can take a sip of water if you need to. You know, it is formal, but you know, it's not a performance. It's about having a genuine conversation with someone.
Yeah, definitely. So I'd even say pin post-it notes all over the wall behind the screen that perhaps the person can't see, but they're your key. I must mention this about myself, or I must find this out about the company while I'm having that conversation.
So after the conversation, it may be that the recruiter would like your CV. How should candidates tailor their CV?
So you've really got to think about what is the important information that they need to know about you that's relevant for that role. It's really easy to think, I need to write down absolutely everything I've done in education and work experience on a piece of paper and therefore present it to them. But in fact, what you actually write is going to be very dependent on what you're applying for. So for example, I work with biologists that do the same course, but many might apply to research jobs whilst others might apply for something completely different, such as accountancy. And as an example, the way that you'd write about maybe a final year research project might be quite different. So for example, for a PhD, you want to show off you can undertake the scientific process and talk about the gene that you worked on if that's really relevant to what you're applying to. Whereas a big banking corporation won't necessarily know what that gene means or really care about the hundreds of Western blots that you did. They're more interested in that you can manage a research project, and that's the more important information to put across. You can also tailor the CV from the entry. So at the beginning, you could have a personal profile that outlines what you're wanting to do, or a brief section on your key skills and competencies. So for example, I'm good at communicating and project management, in a really brief sentence that describes your skill set in that area to frame your CV.
So obviously, people are going to want to really stand out. They're going to want to catch the eye of a recruiter. You know, what would be your top tips for standing out in a video chat and by your CV?
I'd say definitely be prepared. Be ready to lead that conversation and not just have somebody give you information and it might make you look a little bit less prepared. Think about your facial expressions and how you come across and appear warmth. You want to be yourself and not necessarily robotic. I know it might be quite nervous on a video, but imagine you're just speaking to a close friend and but professional at the same time, and just deliver a warmth about yourself. And with the CV, just make sure you tailor it and you provide some really, really good examples. And don't just describe what you've done, but really pull out examples of your success. So you set out to do a research project to analyse a specific cell type, but tell them what you achieved in that time that shows that you were very, very good at it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Amanda, and thank you for these really great tips.
Thank you. I really enjoyed speaking to you, and I hope the career fair goes really, really well.